YouTube. Okay, so tonight's episode, Haves and the Have Nots, season 20, episode, dang it, season 4, episode 20. Okay, anyways, let me just get started, okay? So, it's called Back in Business and starts off with the scuffle between Benny and David. And so, they're going back and forth. Of course, David has showed up with a gun, so the gun keeps going off. Luckily, it's missing them, and nobody's gotten shot, and that alarms Mitch to come outside and to help break up the fight. So he breaks up the fight, but they still have like big egos about themselves. So they're still talking stuff, and like Benny is rubbing it in that he's been with Veronica. Little does he know, David doesn't care. He filed for divorce. Veronica is a freaking monster. Like Benny can have her. Anyway, so Mitch finally calms him down enough to send Benny inside so he can handle it. So Mitch is like, look, can you just get our phones turned back on? Just let all this go. Of course, David is being difficult because he's always difficult. So then Mitch says, look, your phone's ringing in your car. You're going to want to answer that. As if he knows who it is. Now, remember, we've been trying to figure out what this connection is with Mitch's family, and I've been saying it all along. Well, I might not have said it on here, but I've always believed there's no other family Mitch can be connected to except for the Malones, and that's what it is. So David gets in the car. He gets this phone call. It's from an anonymous voice, which ends up being Rosie Malone. And she basically says, look, I'm watching you. I see you staring right at my grandson. Yes, his name is Mitch, a.k.a. Mitchell Malone. He is a good kid. He is not here with this family business, like this killing stuff. And he just wants to live like a straight and narrow. And that's what he's trying to do with his tow yard. And you messing up his phones is really jacking that up. So I'm going to need you to leave him alone. And I'm going to need you to get his phones turned back on. Okay? That tow yard that you're sitting in front of, I tried to buy that for him. But he don't want the dirty money. He wants an honest living. So let him get that, okay? We don't want no problems because you already know how we operate. So David is like, well, dang. Like, okay, I will get him turned on. So, of course, David, he doesn't want to get got. So he calls Oscar and he says, Oscar, you need to get these phones turned back on, okay? So Oscar gets them turned back on. Then Mitch goes inside. Benny is still going back and forth, and he's like, that dude needs to get my phones turned on. This is ridiculous. And next thing you know, the phones start ringing because Mitch's family has saved the day. Now, Benny doesn't know that. Benny thinks it's because he apparently whooped his tail. According to Mitch, Benny didn't whip nothing. But whatever, we're just going to let him think that. So they're happy because their phones are ringing off the hook and they're back in business. Okay, so now let's go to the next storyline. Okay, Candace. So Candace was still sitting in the car outside of the campaign office. Her phone keeps ringing. She keeps ringing. She keeps ignoring a call. Then Erica calls her. She answers, and she basically gives Erica the setup, the game plan. She says, Erica, I need you to go to the Sarandon Hotel. Around this time is when David's going to be coming there. He's going to get a drink to wind down. This is when I need you to mark him, okay? You know that you have gotten him exactly where you want him. If he offers you anything, he's not going to offer to buy you a drink because that's too forward. He's been married for years. He's not going to do anything like that. But he does love a damsel in distress. He likes to save the day. So you need to make up some situation. You need to cry. But don't be too forward. Don't be too pushy. Actually, be mean to him because his wife is evil. And I guess he must like that. But as we all know, all men like a little bit of crazy, a little bit of like pushback because, you know, the whole predator and the prey with men and women. Okay, whatever. Off topic. So she says you need to be rude to him. But actually, his mistress, the one that died, Maggie Day, she was passive. So he doesn't like the passiveness, but she was like dominant, like authoritative. She was like assertive in her position, in her role. She had power. So you need to appear to be powerful, but not too much. And just give him a little taste of that attitude. And we will reel him in and we will go from there. So, of course, Erica, she does her thing. She shows up to the hotel. She has a guy that is like being an actor to act out this whole little scene with her because he knows that they're setting up David. And this guy is like actually a gay guy, but when David comes in, he turns into a married man that has broken Erica's heart, and Erica is busting out in tears. And the actor, he walks out. So Erica just seems to be distraught. So David, he wants to go help the damsel in distress. So he goes over there, offers her a tissue. She says, "No, I don't want your tissue." She's playing her role like to the T. So he's like, "Okay, whatever. I'm about to go back and get my drink." So Erica leaves it at that. She calls Candace to check in and say, "Hey, look, I did exactly what you said. You had him pegged. Now what do you want me to do?" She said, "Don't do anything. You did all you have to do for tonight. You will, quote unquote, run into him again tomorrow, and we will move from there." Meanwhile, Candace is outside of she assumes to be Oscar's home, because Oscar left the campaign office and she followed him to this house where he is sitting down eating with a woman and kids. And so she goes and checks the mailbox, Candace, and finds out that Oscar is actually Brandon. And Brandon appears to be married with kids. So you trying to tell me that when Brandon was playing Mark and Candace, he was living a whole nother life? Like, he had time to be like sleeping with Candace all the time at her hotel room, taking her out of town, like making her think he was a completely different person. Like, he was living a double life. And it's crazy that his wife really don't know that. Wife, girlfriend, longtime girlfriend, whatever. Kids, like, that's crazy. So, of course, she said everything is about timing. So she's not going to bust him out or set him up right now. She's going to wait for the perfect timing so she can get him back. And she wants her money back. Okay, so that's the end of that storyline. Next storyline. Okay. So, anywho, before Candace had even gotten to Oscar's house, her phone was ringing again from the number she kept blocking, and that was Hannah. Hannah was just calling to tell her, "Look, I'm at the hospital. I know your son wasn't with no pastor. Your son is up here, and they said you have one day to come pick him up, or they're sending him to foster care. So you need to come and get him, or why won't you let me have him?" Candace don't have time for it because her mama's relationship is just so horrible. She hangs up the phone in her face. Okay, so next thing you know, we get to Rosie the Nosy Neighbor. Okay, so I know her name is not Rosie the Nosy Neighbor, but I love calling her that because she is nosy. So she's lurking outside of Candace's house. So Hannah shows up at Candace's house, and she's asking the lady, like, is she looking for something? Does she need something? So the lady tries to play it off. "Oh, I'm just walking my dog that I don't have on the leash, but I'm carrying a leash." Whatever. And so then she starts talking to Hannah, and she's like, "Look, I still never saw that man that went in her house come outside of her house." So then Hannah says, "Well, you say you had a picture, right?" Well, coincidentally, Rosie the Nosy Neighbor has the picture with her. So she takes the picture out, shows Hannah. Hannah is like, "Well, I be dang. Like, this is Quincy. I can't believe she let Quincy in her house." So Rosie says, "Well, I don't know if she let him in, but he got in. And when he got in, a white male like hurried out. I'm assuming they got caught up in a compromising position." This lady made up a whole story. Like, this is what nosy neighbors do. So whatever the case, what's her name? Hannah says, "Okay, well, I don't think Candace is home right now." And then so Rosie, the Nosy Neighbor, she leaves and goes back over to her house. Then Candace actually pulls up at home. Okay, so for the 50th time in this show, we're about to see Hannah beg again. So she is like begging and pleading, "I need my son, my grandson. I love my grandson. Why can't you just give me custody of him? I will give you any and everything that I have and own. And you know I don't have much." And then, so Candace is like, "Yeah, you don't have nothing of value to me. Like, you have nothing." And so Hannah says, "Look, I got $843. This is all I have to my name. You can have it." And then so Candace was being evil, so she took the money. She said, "You know what? I'll take this. Actually, on second thought, this isn't even enough to buy me a purse." And I'm like, "Girl, bye. You can go to Marshall's." But anyways, so then she says, I don't need anything from you. You will never have my son. She has this strong hatred for her mother. So then, Hannah looks defeated, and then Candace turns around. She said, actually, there is one thing you can do. If you can get Benny to sue the criers, then yes, I will give you my son. So Hannah doesn't agree. She says, no, that is just wrong. She said, and then so Candace says, no, what was wrong was that they hit my brother. Okay. And they tried to cover that up. So I don't care if they have to pay for his medical bills. If he sues them, you can have my son. Of course, Hannah is not going to agree to that because she's just so loyal to Catherine. Okay, so speaking of Catherine, we see that Catherine has summoned Hannah to her house. Now we know every time Catherine calls, Hannah comes running. So Hannah goes over to Catherine's house, and Catherine is like, I need to talk to you. Basically, I've amended my will. And she said, well, Miss Carr, are you about to die or something? Like, do you have cancer again? She said, no, I just amended my will. And she said, don't you have a will? And Hannah said, girl, I don't have no will. I don't even own nothing. I don't have nothing to my name. So then Catherine says, okay, well, you're going to want one after this because I have amended my will. I need you to read it. Hannah reads it. She sees that Catherine has left her $5 million. And I'm like, girl, what? So Catherine said, you've been a rock in my life. So I want to leave this to you. And so Hannah says, well, hopefully, this doesn't happen anytime soon. She said, and I hope not either. Whatever. So Hannah, she thinks to herself, well, since you're in a giving mood, I got one more thing to ask you about. One more favor. So then Catherine says, okay, what is it? She said, if I go to jail, can you bail me out? Like, you got some bail money? So Catherine says, what? Are you thinking of committing a crime? She said, yes. She said, well, what are you going to do? And I'm like, Catherine, girl, you asking too many questions. Like, you cannot be an accessory to the crime. And Hannah is thinking the same thing. She's like, look, I'm not telling you, but I got some business to go take care of. Okay. So meanwhile, let me see. Did I go over everything? Oh, Jim and the banker. So Jim and the banker goes to the jail to meet up with Jim to let him know that Candace got the money and everything. He also went to notify him that looking through the documents, it appears that Candace has falsified the documents because Benny's signature on the deed was actually not his signature. So Candace must have signed it. And so I guess there's like some legal trouble with that. So Jim says, well, set her up. Call her, tell her she has 24 hours to come back with the $2 million and to come back with everything that she owns, or else the police are coming to get her and she's going to jail. And so, of course, they know she doesn't have the $2 million because it's in the evidence room at the police station. Okay, so he is now on a mission for Jim. Okay, meanwhile, Candace and Jeffrey are at Candace's house. He shows up. He looks like he's been crying. And he says, yeah, I've been crying because I just went to go see Wyatt. Come to think of it, he's not dead. He did overdose, but they were able to save him. And so, Candace, it's not like Wyatt is her favorite person. She's not necessarily happy, but she's happy for Jeffrey. But Candace looks like she's been crying as well. So they share a heart-to-heart. Candace expresses that she loves her son so much. She knows that she's conned too many people in life, and now it's coming back to bite her in the butt, and she can't have her son in that type of environment in her house. So basically, she knows she's going to have to give him up for adoption. So Jeffrey says, look, your mom's really not like a bad person. Like, I just talked to her at the hospital. She's a good person. And then Candace said, no, she's good to you, maybe. She is not good to me. And then Jeffrey said, no, your mom has changed. And Candace says, well, no, has your mother changed? And then Jeffrey said, well, touche. And so next thing you know, Candace was like, no, I can't put my son in that situation because my mother raised me, and I am a horrible, broken, lost person. I am like crushed, like emotionally, mentally, I feel like everything is falling apart. And that is a product of being raised by my mother. And I love my son too much to put him in that position. So no, I'd rather give him up for adoption. Well, I don't know if that's quite going to happen because, as we know, Hannah was on a mission to commit a crime, and that she has done because she has gone to the hospital and kidnapped Little Quincy. Anywho, like, comment, and subscribe.